I'm Lauren. I work in the Alumni Affairs and Foundation office, and I want to welcome everybody and say thank you so much for attending today's event. This is our first career panel that Bill and I have put together, so it means a lot that everybody came out to hear our panelists speak today. So in the Alumni Affairs office, I just want to let you know we're in the BAC 101 in the Brookdale Administration Building. You can always stop in, ask us a question. Also in my office, besides the alumni, we also handle scholarships. So please feel free to also reach out to us with any questions. We love to see students in our office, so please come by and say hi. And now I'm going to kick it over to Bill, and we'll get started.
Yes, thank you so much, Lauren. So my name is Bill Kelly. I'm an assistant director with Career Leadership and Transfer Pathways. And this is a beautiful collaboration with the alumni office because it can be really challenging to figure out what your next step is while you're a current Brookdale student or post-Brookdale, right? So we have a wealth of knowledge right in front of you. So I hope you take the time to think of some questions, pose your concerns on what your next steps should be. This is a great opportunity, and thank you for coming. And my office is located in MAC 105, and we can help you with your resume, your LinkedIn profile, or developing your career action plan. So thank you all for attending today's event. And we do have Chris. Where's Chris? Hi, Chris, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hello. Hey, everybody. My name is Chris Achiber. I'm a career peer mentor. I'm a student worker in this Career Leadership and Transfer Pathways office. Working in the offices, I've gained a lot of insight. I get to, see alum and really learn about career readiness. So, I hope we all take advantage of the opportunities at hand today and let's have a good time.
That's the spirit. Absolutely. So we're going to start off the panel with starting from Roy here, lucky seat, just sharing a little bit about your origins from Brookdale and how that pathway unfolded for you to present day. There are a lot of panelists, so we do want to keep it about maybe 2 minutes or so, if possible. We're just going to go left to right, so introducing yourself and your pathway.
Okay, my name is Roy Lamanna. I went to Brookdale, I believe in the 99, 2000 school year, studied marketing. A couple years ago I started a company called Videa, which is a music technology company that does distribution for a lot of independent artists, and we've done been fortunate enough to work with like a lot of really big names through that. And then a couple of months ago, we just got acquired by a newly formed company, which is Apple, A24, and Eldridge Partners, and now run about a 100-person organization overseeing Death Row catalog, some French Montana, Kanye West, things like that. So and I'm Chief Product and Technology Officer for Gamma.
All right. Hey guys, I'm Caroline. I graduated Brookdale in 2019. I came out of high school really not knowing what I wanted to do. I actually started Brookdale as a fine arts major, and then I went into design, and then I went back into fine arts. I did not know what I wanted to do. My dad encouraged me to take a business class in case maybe I wanted to open my own business. That class was with Dr. Borbeck, and that really opened my eyes to a whole new world of what was going on. As far as economics, I read my first Bloomberg article ever there, and then from there it just kind of blossomed. I switched into the business administration major, finished up my degree, transferred to Rutgers, graduated from their business analytics and IT degree, and then made my way into an internship at Bloomberg, and now I work there as a data analyst.
Hi guys, my name is Victoria. I graduated from Brookdale in 2019 and studied business administration, and while I was at Brookdale, I went to Brookdale's the honors program, and I served as vice president of community service for Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society, which was just an incredible experience. And then after finishing at Brookdale, I went on and transferred to Rutgers Business School, where I graduated with a finance degree, and I interned with KPMG, the public accounting firm, and that is now what I do. I am a evaluations analyst for KPMG in New York.
Hey guys, my name is Jonathan. I'm going to continue the trend here and say that I obviously graduated Brookdale in 2019. I then went and studied at Rutgers. This is a true story, we're not being funny here. But during my time at Brookdale, I also served on the E-Board of the Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society alongside Victoria. And again, like as she said, I echo it, very great experience, a lot of cool leadership opportunities, and for me, a lot of public speaking opportunities, which is something I'm very actively engaged in. So that was really cool. And then after Brookdale, but during my time at Rutgers, I majored in finance. I secured an internship with Johnson & Johnson, which is now where I am currently working full-time in the enterprise FP&A group.
Awesome. I did not graduate in 2019. My name is Leslie Fornino. I graduated a little earlier than that, but I had an unconventional path, which may or may not resonate with some of you. I went away to school first in Pennsylvania, which shall remain nameless, and found my way home, confused like Caroline, but for different reasons, and my father said, go back to school. So I found my way to Brookdale and had some great mentors and great professors that helped guide me into the business program, and worked full-time and went to school part-time for many years. Graduated from Brookdale and then went to Monmouth and spent my career in technology, and then last year I decided to change careers and move into interior design, so went back to school again, because now I know how to do it. I can talk to you about that. And that's what I'm doing today. I'm running a small firm, heading up their strategy and design and helping to grow the firm out of New York City. And happy to be here.
I'm Erin Kinnaman. I attended Brookdale in 2013, 2014, then transferred down to Stockton. And now I work for Monmouth County in the Economic Development Office, assisting small businesses throughout the county.
Afternoon, my name is Brian Duffy. I graduated in 2000. I too was an unconventional student. When I walked in, I worked 6 days a week, 2 nights a week, and had a kid who played travel hockey. So it was hard to try to find the time to come to school. It took me 3 years to get my 2-year degree here. Then I went to Kane, got my 3rd and 4th year there by 2003. And how I got my job is totally unconventional. I was a mailman at the time. I went on all the crappy interviews, Monster.com and all that, and finally realized that on my mail route I had a plethora of people that could help me get a job. So I went home, printed resumes. The next day started knocking on doors. I had 10 or 12 interviews after that, so I was able to get a job in a bank, the large New Jersey bank from there, and just learned the value of connections, and that all started here. So thank you.
My name's Chris. I graduated in 2012, I believe. I started in 2010. I'm actually very similar to Leslie's story. I did start off unconventionally. I went to Binghamton for the wrong reasons. Parents wanted to be a lawyer, doctor, accountant. Yeah, nah. So I mentally broke down, came to Brookdale. Brookdale actually helped me find out who I actually really was in a weird way. Became president of the Asian Society over here. Led it to, I would like to call it the glory years of where it was now. And after that, I went to Rowan for public relations, but my brother wanted to be a doctor. Family couldn't afford it, so I chose to leave school to start working. And he's about to graduate as a doctor this year, so very proud of him. And now fell into staffing by accident after I got fired from public relations. And I've been there ever since, worked for multiple staffing agencies, worked for Louis Vuitton, and now I'm branch manager of a local smaller staffing agency, but I'm just out doing what I personally do love doing best, which is helping people get out to work. And it's actually because of the things I've learned here that helped me realize this is who I actually am and what I like doing.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone. So as you can see, audience members, you have a wide variety of different professionals from a wide background. So before I jump in, I know we have some questions from the professionals here at Brookdale, but really this is all about you. So I want to start off with some questions that you might have. And Andrew, if you want to kick it off, I think we have Chris going to come up with a mic.
My question is basically for all of you. When you're in Brookdale, is it very hard to get an internship? Because I want to try and get like a business internship, like within a year.
That's a
Good question. So, Andrew, I think you're asking, okay, well, how do you actually go about finding an internship? And I know there's quite a few of you who recognize the value of having an internship. So, was there a particular strategy that someone had in mind, or did you seek out a specific service at Brookdale to help you along the way? Or what's your secret to how you landed your internship? And this is an open question to anyone who would like to answer. All right, Chris.
Actually, it's more of just like best practices in general because this is quite literally my living at the point, which is to help people get work. So first thing I want to ask you before answering your question really is, have you talked to your adjunct professors? Because one thing I didn't understand when I was going to Brookdale is that adjunct professors are adjunct because they have a passion to want to teach you guys to get into their field or expose you guys to their field. So if anything, you should be speaking to them as one of the first people you would want to talk to about getting in the show because they're already working in their career. They're just using their time to help bring their passion to you guys. That's just one thing I wanted to ask you, if that's something you've taken advantage of yet. And if not.
Well, I never had the chance to ask my professors that. I never had a chance to ask my professors that. I've mostly been going to like Bill Kelly and Chris for some of these things because they work in career services.
Yeah, but otherwise it's really, I wouldn't say it's not that difficult. It's all about timing. It's all about luck. And also, have you checked your format of your resume? Have you practiced your storytelling of your story? I failed many interviews and many applications before even getting to where I am now. You just have to keep going at it. It's difficult if you're inexperienced. It's difficult if you're not great at storytelling. It's probably the most difficult if you're not willing to take failure as a learning experience. If you open yourself up to failure, then, and see it as not as a mistake, but more as this is my chance to learn of where I messed up, that's the best way for you to actually just keep going. Don't take no for an answer. Just take it as, okay, next. That's my personal opinion, at least. I don't know if anyone else has any advice.
Yeah, I'll add to that a little bit, and I'll speak on behalf of how I poorly handled this during my time at Brookdale. Thank you. And that I did not have an internship during my time here. And I think the reason why is because I was solely focused on my grades being good, because it was the only thing that I knew as to what needed to be done during my time here. Needed to get good grades. And I was under the presumption, due to my own folly, that I thought I would be getting straight A's and someone would just come knock at my door with a job offer in hand, which was not the case. So, retrospectively, I look back and wish that I had proactively taken more efforts to go and seek those opportunities and to find out how to make them come to fruition. So I think the fact that you're here right now, even asking that question, already puts you in a much better place than some other people have been during their time at Brookdale, me being one of those people.
And I guess just to piggyback off of what Jonathan was saying, I think just because I had an internship while I was at Brookdale, but a piece of advice that I would give, if you're looking for an internship, is just try. Just keep applying, keep pushing yourself, keep putting yourself out there. Because even if you do get rejections, so what? There's going to be one that lands, and if you just keep pushing yourself and going for it, because that's all you can really do at the end of the day. It's failure might come, you might actually land an internship as well, but you'll never know if you don't try. And there's no harm in it because each experience, each interview you go on, each application you fill out, that's just more experience that you can take and learn from. But it only happens if you just go for it. You just have to keep trying.
Yeah, I would say from my perspective, so I lead a company and have hired, probably 50, 60 interns over the last 10 years or whatever. We've hired, several of them a year, and some of them, I actually hire high school interns as well as college interns, and to be honest with you, the biggest thing, this goes even for the idea, when I was, because my company was a startup, I raised capital, and I raised capital not coming through an Ivy League school. I unlike many people here, I only went to Brookdale. I didn't go to any four-year degree. I didn't get any advanced, any bachelor's. I didn't get a master's or anything like that. The biggest thing, honestly, is your network. When you look at resumes, and every time we open up a job, I probably get, no lie, 400 to 500 applications for every single job. It's generally speaking, and this is just the truth, is you look at it, when you look at college, there's certain colleges that stick out on paper. So if you go to a Harvard or a Yale or whatever, those things stick out. Unless you're in one of those Ivy Leagues, it's kind of like a blur. It gets lost in the wash. And so the biggest thing, at least from my perspective, are like two things, like looking at resumes. One is like real life applications. So like if you want to like be an entrepreneur and be a business, like start a business. Like it's not that hard. Like go up there, set up a Shopify account, sell some items, like get involved at like a business level, and like, you know, start doing your own thing that kind of show like the idea that you could be like an entrepreneur. And then the most important thing, honestly, is your network. Like, you know, like the idea, like every single time, most of our interns that we hire are usually through warm intros. So it's through someone that like, you know, works at a VC or works at a related field, or someone that like knows that they could get my attention and they can text me and they say, you know, I have a cousin, uncle, brother, son, or whatever, you know, they have, and they say like, can you get them in the door? Like they don't get hired based on that, but they will get like an interview usually. So like, you know, having a warm intro and having a network, like I mean, building a network is like probably the most key thing you can do, because that basically gets rid of all the noise. And so if you kind of go on LinkedIn and say, you know, this is where I would like to be, and you have a very clear path in like what you want to do. Not like, oh, I won't do anything. I want to intern anywhere. I want to intern in any business. Like that is like, it's like the worst answer in the world, at least in my opinion. Like if you really know what you want to do and you're moving in a straight line towards it, and you're saying I will work for these 20 companies, I'm gonna make a very strong effort to work at like one of these companies. Like at least for me, my first order of business would be like who is the person that makes the decision, and how can I get through them through a secondary? Like, so, you know, who can I get to that knows them, that's within their inner circle, that like, you know, so like for this, for instance, like if someone want an internship here or whatever, like they can go onto LinkedIn, they can see I'm connected to Lauren, they can talk to Lauren, and Lauren would text me and say, I have a really good person at Brookdale that I think you should talk to, and then I would say, okay, like, I'll talk to them, you know? That's usually, at least in my opinion, how most of it works. It's a network, you know?
And I think, go ahead.
I was just going to say, from a hiring perspective, so I moved into interior design and working for a very small firm now, so there's not a lot of internships, although we're talking about it to add skills. But I came from technology. I worked for some big brands. I worked for Salesforce most recently, and the last 5 years there was in leadership. And we hired interns often, every summer. And I agree with Roy that a lot is about networking, but I also think you're taking the first step, which is to share what you're trying to do. And that's the most important thing over my career. I found success is sharing my story and what I wanted to do, and people like to help people. So over my whole career, through school, all of that, anytime I've asked for help, people are really willing to come to the table and give you advice and give you encouragement, whatever you need. So keep doing what you're doing, but I also agree, be focused about where you want to spend that energy. So shortlist maybe some companies you want to target, and then to Victoria's point, try. If you fail, who cares? That's how you learn.
And I'd like to follow up on the last two speakers. I agree with both of them, but you also need to be inquisitive and find out what those people do. I'll give you a quick example. I bought a business about 3.5 years ago, okay? I have a son who's in his 30s. At his first birthday, there was a date there of a friend of ours who came, and I became good friends with her throughout the years. When I went to the breakdown to the onboarding for this new business that I bought, this woman jumped out of an office, and I thought, you know, if I bought this thing 5 years ago, if I knew this, I would have saved money and all that. And my first thing I said, why didn't she tell me that she did this stuff? And I realized I didn't ask her. So if you ask these people what they do, they'll help you, but you find out, you know, there's somebody in here. And as far as connections go, there's 70 people up here. If you have LinkedIn, you should shoot eight invitations out today to get that started as well. So I'm going to do the same thing when I'm done too. So get it out there, find out what people do. It's great to have connections. Find out what they do, because it may not be your friends that'll help you, but it's the friends behind them that'll help you too. So.
Thank you. These are really excellent questions. And one of the main goals of today's event is for you to network and get out of your comfort zone. But I know for myself, working with students, sometimes there's a lot of anxiety associated with it, or how I can't network. Or I noticed even when we started, everyone formed small pockets and no one was really approaching all of you. So when you were starting to develop professionally, was there a certain strategy, or would you have any advice for how our students can maybe overcome that anxiety or get out of their comfort zone?
I have a quick story that has helped me in the later part of my career, and similar to Brian, I wish I learned it early on, but I was in sales and technology, and I was working on one of the top 5 banks, trying to break in and trying to break into the CEO level of the account. And I was terrified. I was afraid if I called, they wouldn't give me a meeting. I had 1,000 reasons. So my boss says, "Are you meeting with them now?" And I said, "No." And he said, "So if you call and they say no, are you meeting with them then?" I said, "No." He said, "What do you have to lose? Go, make the calls, and don't come back until you get the meeting." And I did. And that was the best advice I ever got, which is just try. You have nothing to lose. You learn from the experience. I got creative, and then I carried that forward to the next win and the next win. And I didn't always get the meetings, but you develop skills. And by the way, I'm still terrified to do things. I had to call Lauren to find out what parking lot to park in. So that doesn't go away. It's how you plan for it. I think that helps.
Did anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, just I guess a piece of advice I would give is everyone is just a person. Like, we're all just people.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the fact that like there's a title associated with a role or whomever, it adds this extra layer of like apprehension that like doesn't have to be there. Like, we are all just people. And like a quick little like story about that. So when I interned for KPMG, we did like this little networking event before the interviews. So every single candidate who had an interview, we all met up at this one restaurant near Rutgers. And there were a bunch of different like partners and principals from the firm who would be our interviewers, all like meeting, just networking, just getting a chance to like get to know everyone. And it was just funny because there would be all these little clumps of people surrounding the partners and the people that would be interviewing them, hounding them with these questions, like very technical, very perfectly calculated questions, like almost robotic. Like, it was just very clear that they were trying to make themselves seem like, "Oh, I'm so well versed, this is what I want to talk to you about," like casually and informally. And it was just so like transparent that that's what they were getting after. But like, for a time, like I sort of like stepped away from the clumps because like I wasn't just gonna start hounding them with these questions. And there was like a senior manager just like off by herself, and like her and I started chatting. And I found out she ended up like living near my hometown that I grew up living in. And we just started chatting about like random things, about like sushi restaurants that we loved in the area. I found out that where I was looking to move post-graduation, that's where she sort of lived, so she had sushi recommendations for there as well. And it was just so casual and informal, and now fast forward how many years later, her and I work on projects together, and we have that like informal connection, and it's just because like we're all just people. Like, I understand like the role adds that apprehension, but at the end of the day, like you can connect with people just for the fact that we're all just people.
I'll just throw in a little addition there. I don't know if any of you guys read the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a... Yeah. That actually has a lot to do with actually succeeding in having these type of conversations. Actually, the interviews of some really hype, like with Louis Vuitton, when I did the interview not expecting to get it, so I did not try to be professional at all. I was actually very casual, I was very relaxed, and I did not expect to get it. All of the interviews that I've aced were the ones that I did not expect to get, and it's because I stopped caring. So it leans back to the point that you were making. It's about stop trying to showcase yourself just on a technical level. Showcase yourself. In reality, hard skills, they're all trainable. Everything we can do at our jobs, we can learn on our own, 2-hour training, YouTube video, whatever, we can learn it. Who you are as a person, that's something that we as recruiters or hiring personnel have a difficult time seeing when you're busy trying to say, I can do Python, I could do C++, I could do whatever program language, I could do this type of cost accounting. I want to know who you are. Are you going to get along with my team? Are you going to get along with the CEO? Are you going to get along with the supervisor? That's what we're really looking for, and I'm more inclined to hire someone I like over someone that's super qualified but kind of has a stick up their butt. So that's just, I apologize for the frankness, but I just wanted to help make sure to give it to you guys that, to add on to another point, we're people. We're very normal. I speak everyone's language. I speak my own language, but that's just relax. We're people, and just don't give up. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And what do you have to lose, right? But what can you possibly gain, which is really what we need to walk away with. So I know we have some notes on the table, and Chris can come around if you have a question. This is your opportunity to step out of your comfort zone.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Alexia. I am an education major. I know all of you are more into business and not education, but I do want to have a leadership role in education one day, probably become a principal or somewhere be on the board. And I'm aware that I probably will have to public speak at some point. And I know I heard from you, Mr. Scott, that you were in a extemporaneous speech competition, and that sounds really scary. And you did say that you were very passionate about speaking, and I'm sure some of you guys as well have also had experience in public speaking or had to do something regarding public speaking. Could you maybe talk about, and this could be for anyone as well, could you maybe talk about what led you to be able to speak comfortably? Is it because what you talk about helps you speak more comfortably? Is there something that you tell yourself constantly? Can you maybe talk about a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so great question. And Josh Donovan is fine. Mr. Scott makes me feel way too old.
Sorry.
And so I think I'll speak to, I guess, a little bit of my experiences with public speaking. So as you mentioned, I did the extemporaneous speech competition, which, yes, was pretty frightening. Essentially what it was is that we were given 30 minutes to select one prompt from from 3 different options, and within 30 minutes craft a 7-minute presentation, at the end of which had to be immediately delivered. And it was intense, but I really enjoyed the pressure of that. And then I actually also spoke at graduation at Brookdale when I graduated. And so I think the reason why I have such comfort in speaking is because I don't know how to stop talking. So I figured out rather how to channel it into a positive situation. Is that something that resonates with you as well? Okay. So I think that's really what it is like, when I was 13, 14, maybe even like 18, 19, it maybe might have been a weakness of mine where people are like, Jonathan, just shut up, please. So I was like, okay, well, let me figure out a way that I can put this to good use. And I think that also plays into the fact that I worked in the bartending industry for quite a long time, which is also a very conversational industry to be in. And so I just leaned into my natural personality traits. And so, I think that I was a little naturally blessed in that regard, and that I didn't necessarily succumb to the same fears others with public speaking on an inherent level. But to that point, even if you're not somebody that feels naturally inclined to speak, or you have that natural level of comfort, same as if you're learning any other new skill, you can develop it with practice and with time. You may be starting at a different point than somebody else, but that doesn't mean that you have an inability to develop that skill. And I think it's a great skill to have. I think it will only benefit anyone in any industry to be able to speak comfortably and publicly, and I absolutely advocate for the development of that.
If you had to get up and speak to us about astrophysics, could you do it?
Sure.
Could you? If you had to get up and speak to everybody here about yourself, could you?
Most likely, I wouldn't want to.
Well,
but I would.
Usually ourselves are our favorite subject. So what you have to do is feel comfortable about what you're talking about. Like all that I lost him after the first sentence. Like I couldn't keep up with any of that. What the presentation put together, that's great. I couldn't do that. Get up and talk about yourself. Get up and talk your education. Get up and talk about if you have to present yourself to a board to get a job. You just went through hell to get your degree and so on and so forth to where you're at. Talk about that. Talk about something you're comfortable with. You're talking about yourself. Get up there and talk. Like, I can talk about how I went through school and all that's great. I couldn't talk about astrophysics. If you gave me a compass and a map for 2 weeks and studied it, I couldn't do it. Like she said, I'm afraid too. But you get comfortable with what you're talking about, the subject, you get up, it flows. And people listen to you. Because you don't sound rehearsed, you sound like yourself. That's my thought.
And prepare. I think prepare. That's
Yeah.
it. So
yeah.
So I have a background in musical theater, which everyone goes, oh, that's why you went in sales, that's why you're good. No, because I was prepared. Because in musical theater, you don't just come out and blurt out things. You have to memorize all those lines and songs and all of those things. And the way you get comfortable, and you always have butterflies, is that you prepare and practice. And so when I moved into sales, I did the same thing. And when I moved into sales leadership, I made my team practice our pitches before we went out. And they're like, what are you talking about? Why wouldn't we just go and talk to the customer? I'm like, when we're presenting, you should be prepared. When you're talking to them, you should ask questions, right? Which is different. So you have to know what role you have. But find ways, and my dad and my niece were teachers. My niece is a teacher. My dad was a teacher. So that's public speaking too, right? So you're educating. So take those moments, like Jonathan said, and you're probably speaking more publicly than you realize, and you just did it here asking a question.
For me, I actually, and I can relate this to Brookdale, because I always knew I wanted to start my own business. And so a lot of the classes I picked were around, like, what are the skills I need to be able to start my own business. A lot of it is selling. I mean, no matter what, you're always in sales, right? So like you're either like selling a product or you're selling yourself, right? And all that's about communication. So I actually took for the 2 years I was here, I took like 2 or 3 acting classes at Brookdale, and that like really forces you to like, you know what I'm saying, like get up in front of people and kind of be able to. I mean, because it really puts you on the spot. Like, you got to be there, and you got to be like, all right, here's a scene, and you got to do a scene by yourself, or you got to do a scene with someone else. And that, honestly, like, for me, when I was, like, 18, 19, was, like, super helpful. And then just whatever, get in front of people. And even now, like, I mean, because I did a TED Talk, one time, I was fortunate enough to, introduce the governor, and those, like, TV cameras and stuff like that. And, like, you still get, like, really nervous. Like, that doesn't go away, right? But, like, for the most part, at least from my position, it's like I try and just like, I don't know, I just try and throw myself into situations that make me uncomfortable, and then at the end of the day, like, you'll figure out how to work through it, And the worst fear is like never, like, really, I mean, it's always like way worse in your head than it actually is. Like no one really cares, So.
That is true.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Another question from the audience.
Hello, my name is Jessica. I'm an international student and business major. And after I'm planning on applying for OPT after my 2 years degree. And the question is that what should I consider on looking for like a job opportunity? Because since I don't have like experience in like United States companies, so I have just a big background from my home country. So I really don't know which I should consider for looking for a job.
Where are you from?
Brazil.
You should call Chris.
I was gonna say, actually,
Basically.
that's literally my job. My job is actually to help get people out to work. So if you want to connect afterwards, like send me your resume. I'd be happy. I do a lot of office clerical. I do even like. This is something that some people overlook, supply chain. Supply chain has more than just your typical warehouse, loading, unloading stuff. There's actually office administration work in there as well. For your case, because you're just coming out of school, but you have prior experience in other countries, expand your net as wide as you can. Agencies, there's like, New Jersey is super saturated with agencies all over, like everywhere. But we all have our own typical specialties. I've been doing this for almost 10 years now, so actually my network is pretty massive in comparison to, I would say, most of the normal people, only because I've been doing this for so long. But reach out to people. Back to what everyone literally was saying. Connect with people. Make your network. Don't be afraid to say hi. This is my resume. This is what I'm looking for. I want to know if this was something you could do to help me. But before I even take your resume, when we have the conversation, what do you want to do in life? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What is it you want to actually be at? Do you want to, because where your goals align, it's not that I want you to overshare your life with me. I want to help you put your life in a place that you want to be. Because the reason why I'm successful at my job is because I have this one mentality. I never want to see you guys again. If you guys have to keep coming back to me, that means I'm doing my job poorly. So if I get to send you out and I never hear from you or see you again, except maybe when I visit you at a client and it's like 5 years later, wow, what? You're still here? But that's, open up, talk with everyone, speak with people that you know have the ability to help you out. So we can definitely talk after this. I'll definitely more than happy to connect. And hopefully I can guide you the right direction. And if not, I can speak with my network and then get your resume out there so that this way they can reach out to their network. Yeah, I hope that answered your question. I'm so sorry for the tangent.
And I'd like to add a little bit to that on a different note. So I think you said you have some experiences from back when you were in Brazil. Is that correct? Yeah, so I would urge you to look at that as a competitive advantage for you. That is a differentiating factor that will set you apart from many of your peers. I say this from experience in my current team at Johnson & Johnson. My new manager actually just relocated from Sao Paulo 3 weeks ago. So, they recognized him and his experiences in an international market for a company that operates globally, that's an advantage because he has experiences and perspectives that someone like me, where I've only been located in the US for all of my working life, well, actually all of my life, I don't have those experiences. So lean into them and find the best way that you can leverage that as an advantage that you have over your peers.
You also want to look for, an opportunity that's going to allow you growth and mentorship and leadership opportunities. And then also, when I was first starting out, I totally ignored like benefits packages and health insurance and paid time off. Those are all
They're
important
important.
things.
Super.
Vacation time is good for you. Yes.
Hi. Oh my God. Hi. My name is Amara. I'm a psych major. So after Brookdale, I want to go to Rutgers and then transfer to Rutgers Medical School. So about what you were saying about qualification not just being like the main part of it, like when it comes, because like medicine is a huge thing to go after. So like I'm lucky in that area. My grades are pretty tight and pretty solid. So, but I've had people say things like it's not just about that. You like doctors, they want to see that you're a humanitarian and that you care. And so I've had people say stuff like go out, go volunteer. I do that, but somehow it's like I'm getting nothing. So it's like, how do you separate what you feel qualifies you from like what you were saying, they want to see you? How do you like distinguish both aspects of it? If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
It doesn't. That's a tricky one, actually.
So can you talk more about when you say you're volunteering but you're not getting anything? What do you mean by that?
It's like, let's say I'm a doctor, whatever. I have a patient and they have cancer and I'm trying to figure out how to tell them. I think for me, also emotionally, the way I was raised, it's like you just say it. And I'm like scared because like if I find myself in that situation and I just say it and they break down and someone reports me like, oh, she doesn't care about my feelings, that kind of thing. I don't want that kind of reputation as someone who's not like, she's all about the job, but she's not all about the person, that kind of thing. So how do you kind of, okay, I have the qualifications, now I need to get like, I need to see myself enjoying what I'm doing and loving what I'm doing as a better person. Like, how do you...
Be a person.
Yeah, how do you be a person,
No,
basically?
that's the answer. Be a person.
Oh.
Just be yourself.
So
Right?
I personally don't have any experience in psychology or psychiatry, but one of my very, very close friends is at Rutgers in the social work master's degree. And one of the things that she works on right now is when there are children in hospice. And she kind of goes in and helps families work through that like emotional portion of that and helps kind of like sit there and help it's really mostly for the families at that point, right? Because they're going through this very traumatic, sad situation. And at the end of the day, it hurts her, but she has to be really strong for them. And at the end of the day, that is what she's doing. She's helping them through this horrible situation where their child is, eventually going to pass away. And I think like for you, if you are in psych or if you eventually want to go into medical school, you kind of have to think about what it is that you are getting out of it. Is that even though maybe you are going to be very blunt and straightforward with, hey, you do have this like life-threatening disease, like you are the one telling them, you are helping them. If you weren't there, they would have no idea and they would suffer like mindlessly. So it's something that, is difficult and she's struggled with herself. There's always going to be that level of separation where you can't take it personally. But just know that you are kind of that driving force of what is actually assisting those people, even if, it's hard for you and hard for them.
Yeah, so can I just add one more thing to that as well? So I'm going to speak on behalf of my partner here. I hope she wouldn't mind. But she's a nurse, and she's currently finishing her master's of nurse practitioner. And she's also Italian and from New York. So, like, Blunt, I think, is her middle name. But she works in an industry where, like, bedside care and the ability to speak to things with a little bit of more of a tender cadence is, like, certainly part of the job. And so what I will say is that I've seen her over the years, and I imagine it'll continue to happen, kind of continuously evolve. In that she didn't start school or even leave school as like the nurse she would be for forever. this was just step one of X number of steps she would continue to take in progression throughout her career. And I think just keeping that in perspective could be helpful to know that you're going to continue to have learnings that will happen, things that may change the way you want to approach certain scenarios. You'll develop, different characteristics that you see of yourself that you want to apply to who you are at work, which may be different from who you are outside of work. I think it's also important to recognize that there can be those distinctions. And so I think, you'll begin to discover that over time a little bit. And if you had all those answers right now, I mean, kudos to you. That'd be very impressive.
Right.
I think it's very much so okay that you don't have those answers right now and that you want to find them and you're seeking them out. Again, that shows a lot of the character that you already have today, which I think speaks to the growth that you'll have in the years to come.
And I'd say, just to add on to that, focus on empathy, right? Because I think the person story, right? And we're all people, so whether we're a patient or you may be a patient, you may have gone to a doctor, right? Use that to understand how it feels in that situation. And then I think Caroline had really good advice from a hospice perspective. Just show up with empathy and try to be present and be there with that person for that moment and take the lead from them, which will help guide you to the right decisions. And Jonathan, saying that over time you're going to learn more every day. So you're going to get better and better at it, but great to be thinking about it now.
Hi, my name is Brielle. My question is is it possible to get a job with a certificate?
With what?
A certificate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have people working for me that are, making $300,000 a year on a certificate,
Okay.
I mean, a lot of them are engineers, like if they're computer science, they go to boot camps and whatever, but I personally think so.
Okay. I just changed careers by getting a certificate in interior design. So I didn't go back and get a degree. I'm using all the things I learned in my time here at Brookdale and Monmouth and got a certificate so that I could move into the next phase. I didn't lose any levels. I brought all that transferable skills that Chris talked about, and then I'm applying new learnings to start over again. So absolutely.
When I look at resumes, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't care really too much about your degree. I care more about what skills you can bring onto the team. And when I interview you, are you someone that I would want to have on my team? So those are go ahead, Kirsten. At my level of what I am for my industry, I should not have my position. I should not have my title. Technically, on paper, I'm kind of underqualified until they see my job experience, until they see the results that I produced. And in the end, when it gets to a certain level, that's all we care about. Can you give me the numbers I'm looking for? Can you give me the results I'm looking for? You got a degree? Great, cool. So does almost 75% of the applicants I get. The most impressive applicants I've always ever received were the ones who had all the experience and the ones I ignored actually about the degree. The degree helps get your foot in depending on the industry you want to get into. If you're just looking to go out, work, and just grow yourself as a person, don't be afraid. Just do it. As Shia LaBeouf and Nike says.
I have two questions, but they don't correlate. Is that okay? Okay.
Could you jumping outside the
Exactly.
box, huh?
Yeah, about
Public
that.
speaking,
Do
there you
it,
go.
do it. Immediate progress.
Exactly. I do talk a lot. Kidding. Okay, so my first question is, I don't know if I'm using the right terminology, but in today's day and age, what are the most valued soft skills and hard skills that are considered today that you've seen at least?
You guys have anything?
I'll chime in just real quick from my experiences, and I'll say that as far as hard skills go, that's definitely a little more specific to your industry. The hard skills that I apply to my job would be very different than, I guess, if you want to call it the harder technical skills of a medical background, or if you were doing computer engineering. So that would be more specific to your space, I would say. In regards to soft skills, I think that's where you can have a bit of a wider net that can be cast and be applied to almost most of the places you'd be working. And to the earlier point that I made, the ability to effectively speak, I think is universally beneficial for anyone. And another one that I've recognized as being very helpful for me in my experiences, and I've also seen it be detrimental to others that didn't embody it, is having what's called emotional intelligence, and just being aware of to oversimplify it, be aware of the other people that are in your space, in the room, and of who they are as people, how they are different from you, and how they may be responding differently to you than any given situation. And being able to understand that with who you are, reconciling those differences, and using that to build meaningful connections between you and others.
Okay. For me, one of the most important ones that I've been using lately is writing. Constantly writing, whether it's emails or social media posts or marketing materials. I'm constantly second-guessing my grammar and proofread everything because spell check does not catch everything.
We all do that. It's not just
From
you.
a hiring perspective, where I came from in technology, the last company, we didn't hire on experience, we hired on situational skills, which is all soft skills. And that's really like how people, I think, Chris, you talked about this, how you would show up and how you would handle things. And in looking at transferable skills, because not everyone has the skill needed to do a job, but that doesn't mean they can't do it, or they were doing something that can translate and apply to it. So that's all the soft skills, which is communication and writing and all the ways that, that you show up and you participate and engage, your listening skills, all of those are super important. And the good news is we have every day, all day, every time you talk to someone, an opportunity to practice those skills. And then the rest you get at school.
With my current client base, this is, because you guys touched all the soft skill parts, which is like, thank you guys so much for that, because it helps when other people are saying it. This one is weird, but with most of the companies and clients I'm working with, Excel, like actually learn to use Excel or turning on the computer, that is something that I've been having an extremely difficult time with.
Interesting.
Turning on the computer, using Zoom, using Excel, word processing programs in general, the things that at least our generation seems to be literally like second nature or stuff that we were trained to be like, hey, you gotta know this. That is not something I see anymore.
I'm glad you pointed to me and Brian when you said part of our generation.
I did it as the
That
whole
was really
people.
good. Brian, would you feel arrived?
The tablet and chisel
Exactly.
that we use.
Our
yeah.
generation.
But like that's just one of the things that like, just in hard skill wise, soft skill wise, understanding of what professionalism is. Nowadays, my wife goes on TikTok from time to time, and I would hear these hints and tips, and I just can't help but think to myself, are you serious? Go with the old-fashioned conservative look when you're coming in for an interview. Do dress to impress. Yes, this is an age of self-expression, but when you work for a corporation or when you work for a client, do understand that most of these companies are around because they follow conservative values. First impressions are massive in a decision of what we decide to do if we want to move forward with you. And the communication styles. Yes, it's cool to say, yo, this is lit. Yeah, nah, this is camp. My boss, I would not even accept it. I would not, like, I'm actually looking for a junior recruiter to join my team for the branch I'm going to be opening up soon. But if they speak to me in that manner, I would not even consider them. So just have a better understanding of what it means to be professional. And that would be my advice to you about one soft skill maybe you might want to just reevaluate yourself or anyone else on, just so you can get a good understanding. But everyone else hit every point that I was looking for, definitely. Sorry.
I'm really surprised about the computer skills. I feel like you would see that even more today, but at Brookdale, I'm pretty sure it's a requirement to take a computer class, because I forget what it was called, but
I think
yeah,
it's
comp
129.
Yes,
I
yep. Take it.
constantly going back to
We all
the
remember
exam.
it well.
I didn't realize how important it was because I really did learn a lot. So.
Yeah, I'll double down on the Excel skills. I use it a lot. I used to kill a lot of work.
You're in finance, though, so.
True,
like,
very true, but.
Like, if you didn't use it, we would worry about it.
I'm not even.
Fair,
you
it's
know,
a fair point.
I'm not even in finance. Most of my clients aren't even really finance. It's just office admin stuff.
Yeah,
You
you
have
need
to
to
know
know it.
Excel.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
should.
Yeah.
Okay. And then my other question was, this is like 2 baby questions. I guess it depends on your first answer, like those tests where it's like based on the first. So
Is this an interrogation now? Or?
Right?
Exactly.
I thought you were afraid to speak.
Right? What happened?
Yeah, what happened to that 20 minutes ago?
What was this?
I'm getting more. It was a warm-up. Okay. So the first question, it's very opinion-based, but let me word this correctly. Do you think it is normal to have second thoughts about what you're going into, or even while you're working, you're a good 5 years into your profession, is it normal to have second thoughts about it? And this next question would be, what do you do to kind of erase those thoughts, if that makes sense?
I'd like to lead off. I'd said before, I was a mailman, okay, and I didn't go to school here until I was in my 30s. And one day I was moaning and groaning about the job, and this old guy comes up to me and goes, "Hey, what's wrong?" I go, "Well, this sucks and that sucks." And he goes, "Well, do something about it." And I go, "Well, I can't do anything. I got kids." He goes, then shut the F up. And I was like, son of a, but he was right. Like, I was in a spot where I was guessing what I was doing. I had two little kids. Like, what am I doing? Am I going to sit here and do nothing and stew about it, or make a change? And I made the change. So and I was 8 or 10 years into it. I was 10 years into my postal career, you want to call it, before I went back to school. It took me 6 years to get my degree, so that's really the long way to do it. But if you're having second guessing about what you're doing, yeah, like nobody, unless you own a business down there, like nobody really stays at a job for 40 years. So yeah, you could pivot from one thing to another. I'm sure there's stories all over. People went from, accounting to architects to owning a business or whatever. So I did. I mean, I hated it. I made the change. So that they weren't second thoughts. They were first thoughts. But if you take the step to do it, you're going to something different, and you'll know along the way. Like, okay, I'm gonna, you education major. Okay, you know what? Maybe I want to do design or something like that. 6 weeks into a design class, hey, I like this, or hey, I don't like this, and you drop it. You'll figure it out. Like, life is long. You can't do something that you have second thoughts with for your whole life.
And by the way, that's one of the good reasons why it's like, so, like for me, like a lot of people are like, oh, like it was super hard, like just, like, I have a very, like, I did a tech career, I started a tech career at 32, again, like raised capital, pitched to all the people, ended up like built a company, up to $100 million, just sold it 3 months ago. And that's a very, having only gone through Brookdale, people are like, oh, that's that was a major disadvantage. I mean, one of the advantages, honestly, is I see so many people get trapped into a position that they hate, and they only stay in it because they're massively in debt. And they're like, oh, I spent there's a lot of people that work for me, and they're like, and they will go and get a degree, and and they'll be whatever, 6 figures in debt, and then get out of school and try something like finance or something like that for the first time, and be like, holy shit, I hate this, But then they'll have to stick with it because they're like, well, I've spent so much money, and I told all my parents and I was going to do this, and they're like, are you sure? And I've got all these loans, and I'm doing it, and then people just ride out a career that they absolutely hate because they get committed so early. I think one of the good things, the advantages of being here is that you're not spending the money that other people are spending. You're able to kind of go out there and I encourage people to get exposure to the career that they want while there's so many people that, because I interview and then they're like, oh, they'll graduate and then they'll apply for a job and have no experience, even any experience, and they'll be like, I'm like, what are you doing in school? They're like, oh, school is my job. It's like, no, school's not your job. School is school. You still do other stuff while you're getting your degree that at least show, give you an internship is a great example. Get exposure to it as soon as you can. And like I said, I've worked at high school interns. High schools have really good programs now, which are good, that give people exposures before they, exposure to an area before they really start spending a significant amount of capital and saying this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And then the other thing I would say is that I think most people, if you look at even my path, it's and even building a company and stuff like that, I mean, I'm 43 now. I started, essentially my career when I was 20, when I left here, and basically, it's an evolution, at least from my, perspective. You kind of, you get up and you think you gotta do something at a certain age. I started off making music videos, directing and producing music videos for basically small artists. And then that led me to a place, and then I just it eventually led me into technology, and then I started getting technology, and I think the thing I realized also is that like so much of my education, like obviously going to school, so that is foundational, but like I so much of what I like learned here, like it's not really applicable anymore. So you have to be able to like, like learn as you go and kind of pull from the environment and work with people. And then, like you said, like your career needs, at least in my opinion, needs to be an evolution, which like you're kind of figuring out as you go along, and you're kind of going where the opportunity is, But yeah, I don't know, for me that worked out.
I'm just going to answer it from a little bit of a different perspective. So like say you're like in the career that you're passionate about and that you like, and you are having those like second guesses, like that's also very normal to like second guess yourself while you're in a career field that you feel like, oh, like this is what I really want to do, this is what I'm really passionate about, but why do I feel this like uncertainty? And like a lot of people like have like imposter syndrome where you feel like I'm not qualified for this, I'm not good enough for this, like I shouldn't be doing this right now, but you know it's like, it's what you're passionate about, it's what you want to be doing. Like that's entirely normal. I feel like everyone goes through that. I myself go through that in my career as well, of just like having these moments of, oh, like I messed up on this project, like, oh, like why am I doing this? Like I'm not good at this, whatever. But then you have those like little moments of like, wow, like I really nailed that. Like I killed that presentation, or like that like model I put together, like it came out perfectly. So like, while it's like super normal to have those moments of like self-doubt and of second guessing, it's just like you hold on to those moments of like like realization, like, oh, like this is why I'm doing this. Like it almost reinforces like why you're passionate about it and your own passion about it as well. So like while it is like also sometimes a good opportunity to maybe, if you're having second guesses, to like jump around, don't be afraid to like anchor yourself like in what you're doing if that's what you're passionate about, just because you're doubting yourself, because everyone goes through that. That's not always an indication that you're not where you're meant to be. It's just like sometimes we get in our own heads about it and we're like, oh, like maybe I shouldn't be. But just remember like why you're doing it and hold on to the moments that make you feel that way.
Yeah, and I'd like to add just a third branch to this, and I'll say this from my personal experiences. So prior to starting my education, I worked in bars for many years, which can be a very lucrative place to work, especially if you find yourself in the right places. But I knew I didn't want to live that lifestyle of very late nights, always working weekends. So that's why I shifted and went to school to try and make like a life-changing career change. And so when I started school, initially I actually started at Brookdale going to school to become a physical therapist, which obviously is not what I ended up doing. So on my end, I had those second thoughts, and I think you said like, how do you kind of like hide them or push them back down? I didn't, because I recognized I had doubts. So I rather said, okay, well, let me holistically and wholly explore this thought that I'm having. And for me, it was very important to bring those thoughts to light among like the people in my circle that I trust the most. So like my brother, my dad, other people that are like close confidants, and like just talk it out honestly with them to get less biased opinions on the situation, because it was hard for me to try to say, hey, should I change my education path, without having a conversation from someone that wasn't emotionally attached to the decision. And so obviously I did. I made that switch and switched my degree entirely, which I'm very happy about now. And I will also say that, I left bartending. I didn't want to do it for any longer, but that's also kind of come full circle now, because I now have my own business where I cater to private events bartending. And I enjoy it because I love the work that I'm doing, and I like doing it now that it's of my own accord, on my own time, my own business model. And so sometimes you may find that what you love doing as a passion might not be the thing that you're doing full time. It might be part time. It might not be a paid endeavor. It might be many other things than what you initially imagined it to be at the onset. And so I allowed myself to explore all opportunities. And I don't really think I'm done with that. I think I'll continue to do that throughout the rest of my career. I mean, I might not be in finance in 10 years. Who knows? I just give myself the opportunity to explore it, but again, to explore it, leveraging the people that I trust to provide good opinions to help me make those decisions, because they are important decisions. You guys have great
Thank you so much.
Fantastic insights. And I think we have a time for maybe one more question from the audience, if anyone had one. Giuseppe.
How's everyone doing? My name is Giuseppe, and I'm a business major right now. I think I want to be in advertising. I'm not too sure yet. I'm new to the school as well, And first of all, I want to connect with everyone on LinkedIn. What I'm saying? I'm new, so like I'll take connections, And I'm also like right now, I'm also on top of looking for an internship. I'm looking for because I'm not part of student life at all, and I understand it's really helpful to be in like clubs and like volunteer work. If you guys have any recommendations, I'll take it, and preferably near Manalapan. I don't like driving, but. Yeah.
Are you only in school? Do you have a job on the side?
No, so yeah, it's literally just school right now, just this. So like I'm working on with Bill on my resume and my handshake right now to eventually get a little internship, just a non-credit one, you know, and then also I'd like to eventually do volunteering and like just put some time to charity and volunteering, and then also maybe be a part of a club. If you guys have any recommendations, because you all went here, so maybe you enjoyed a club, so I'll take it, you know.
I'll speak first and get it out of the way, but I think you heard it all from everybody up here. Start asking questions, make connections, start there. Just start banging your database, bang their database. You probably have 250 friends, I bet you, let's call it that, okay? I bet you those 250 people have 250 friends, and somebody in that cloud out there can probably help you, but you're not gonna know until you start talking to them and asking them, so.
Yeah, I have an interesting story about the club thing. So I started at Brookdale, and I did some musical theater that I mentioned, and I met a woman that I'm still friends with to this day, and we just shared a passion. But she also was a business major as well, and we started taking some classes together. And her mother was a recruiter, and she was responsible for my job at Johnson & Johnson and subsequently 2 other jobs that I got. And it had nothing to do with musical theater. It just had to do with networking and putting yourself out there and sharing your story and communicating and building relationships. And today, now that I moved into interior design, I'm trying to coerce her to be my client, so this could come full circle. But you get the gist of it, that, you know, taking the time investing in people and relationships that are meaningful to you. Like, don't just sign up for a club to sign up for a club. Do something that is important to you, that you would enjoy and that you're passionate about. And I think what is the saying? Birds of a feather flock together, right? You'll find I found musical theater, but they also were business people, and that helped with my career.
Yeah, I'm an actor actually, so you know what I mean. I
we
definitely.
can talk about it.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
I definitely want to chime in about like clubs and getting involved. So it's like Jonathan and I have like mentioned, we were a part of Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society, and that is probably one of the best like extracurricular organizations that, at least for me personally, getting involved with at Brookdale. I've met such incredible people doing that, and like even more specifically, my role within Phi Theta Kappa was in community service. So we would have events all the time. We did like beach sweeps, cleanups, stuff like that. Like, so we were always like meeting new people and getting involved in new places. I think like that's a great place to get started if you're like looking for like clubs to join. And you meet people like I've met some of my like best friends through Phi Theta Kappa, like Jonathan. We literally went from Brookdale to Rutgers together, and we're still like stay in touch, still best friends. So it's just like, I think getting involved in different like groups, it just like sets you up for success in every regard because of the networking, the connections you make, and just those opportunities as well.
Right. Thank you.
I wasn't smart enough for Phi Theta Kappa, but so if you're anything like me, I was actually just president of Asia Society, but it was because I was so embellished in it, and I had to choose which team members I wanted on my team. I had to file so much paperwork, and I had to speak with a lot of the administrative staff and outside businesses. So it kind of taught me to have a little bit more of a, I wouldn't say respect for myself, but to mimic what behaviors the other people were trying to give to me, and that's gonna. I'm so sorry, that would help you a lot, especially if you're trying to look for something. A lot of times when we're hiring people, we want to hire people similar to ourselves. So if you happen to pick up on a trick where, let me copy their mannerisms or speech styles, it may help put a foot onto moving in the path of just being hired, getting an internship. It's just these small little tips that can help you in the future.
All right, so we are coming up on that time, so we do have some time for one-on-one interactions or networking, but if you had any, maybe one snippet of advice, we can go back, start from Roy all the way down on what a student can do maybe, today even, to propel them onto a pathway of success. I'd love to hear.
I would even just build upon what he was mentioning, is that I think the biggest mistake I see for people in general is that they could always clearly articulate the value they're getting from a relationship, but they don't really think about the value they bring to a relationship. So most time people say, oh, I want to get an internship, or I want to get this job, whatever, and that's going to help me, and you need to help me, and if you do this, this will help me, but and most people aren't thinking where is the mutually beneficial situation within a relationship? What is the value? why are they gonna wanna choose me over someone else, and like, how do I bring value? Because like, relationships that like, are like totally like built on like altruism, like someone's just gonna help you without you being, you know, reciprocating and like, and doing something back, like, it's, even if they do it in the beginning, it's gonna end eventually. So like, I always think about the value I bring, and like when, you know, when I can't get someone's attention and I've had to knock on doors that have been closed, like I just think about like how can I get in front of this person and like articulate the fact like clearly and concisely that I bring value and that they get benefit from having talked to me, and then, you know, and then in return you will get that benefit. It's kind of like one thing with both those things.
Yeah, so the thing that I've learned in my time at Woodward is that curiosity did not kill the cat. If you can continue to be infinitely curious and have a willingness and love of learning, you will become so extraordinarily valuable, not only to yourself, but to the people around you. Whenever there's something that I don't know about, or I see like, oh, that person knows about this, like maybe I should know about that, and try to learn up to the best of my ability more and more about that, that is constantly opening up more doors, has opened up more doors to clients, other areas of the business, engineering, all sorts of different like subject matter areas that have really opened like my mind and really enhanced the way that I learn and understand not only like subject matter, but the people around me and the people that are working in those areas.
I guess a piece of advice I would leave you with, be true to who you are, be true to your passions, be true to the things that drive you as an individual, and don't be afraid to showcase your personality and who you are in these like interview scenarios, in these networking scenarios, because that's what people want to learn. They want to learn about who you are. It's of course like what you can bring to the table as well for whatever company, but like don't shy away from yourself, bring that with you as well as your qualifications. And don't be afraid to try. Just keep trying. Something will land, the right thing will stick, but you can only get there if you try.
Yeah, great points thus far. And so I think I'll harp on something that was already touched upon a handful of times, but I think it's worth continuing to beat the dead horse, and that is like building a strong network for yourself. And I want to touch on a couple of points in particular that I've seen be helpful to me throughout my time. And so like the first is I like to try and have what I call M&M conversations, which is conversations that are both memorable and meaningful. And I think it's important to make a distinction between the two, because if I come over to one of you after this and we're talking one-on-one and I just start juggling my phone and my drink, and then we talk about nothing of importance and I walk away, probably pretty memorable for you. But was it meaningful? I don't know, Jerry's still out on that one. So trying to find the way to make both come into play at the same time so that the other party of the conversation walks away with a memorable experience and something meaningful that they can latch on to. And then with your network, it's important, and it has been in my experience, to remember that it's not just who you know, but also who knows you. It's great that I can say that I've met all these people today and that I know them, but if I don't make any sort of connection with them for them to remember me, that's meaningful, and they can say that they know me as well, well, they're only kind of 50% in my network at that point, because they wouldn't have the comfortability to speak on my behalf in my absence. So it's important that the network and the acquaintanceship between you and your network, it goes both ways. You want them to understand who you are, and to the points made already, you want to make that known, like the value you're bringing to them within your network, and that could be showcasing intellectual curiosity. It's showing who you are and being true to yourself, and just allowing that side of you to be seen and known by all those in your network so that they can be better supporters of you throughout your career and your progress.
I think when I hired people the last 5 years of my tech career, the biggest advice that I gave them when they joined the company was don't be afraid to ask questions. People want to help. Even clients asking questions, whatever role you're in, whatever that is. And I always said, you can ask anybody one question, no one's going to say, I'm not answering that question. You might even get a second question. And then sometimes it turns into a conversation and it's meaningful for someone, and you make a connection and they'll want to talk more and they'll want to share. So sometimes we talk about, be prepared, do this, show up. There's a lot of rules and everything that you come to the table, and we don't make room for people to be inquisitive and curious, because that's how you learn. And if you don't know something and you don't have the room to ask the questions, then sometimes people get stuck. And so we need to show up and make room for people to ask us questions, but we also need to force ourselves to ask those questions, no matter what age, what career, whatever time. So that would be my advice.
This was advice given to me by an old coworker. She said, Erin, nobody has any idea what they're doing in life. It might look like it on Instagram or whatever, but nobody knows. We're all just taking it day by day. And she said, you have to live your life for you. You can't live your life, for your mom wanting you to be a doctor or anything like that. You have to live it for you and what you want to do.
Two quick things. Number one, don't wait for permission. You want to give yourself permission to do something. Hey, maybe I need to take public speaking, whatever it is. Just, you know what, don't wait for someone to tell you to do it. I waited until I was 31 before I made a change, and finally I said, you know what, enough's enough. And number two, do something that makes you sweat. Have a conversation with the person at the 7-Eleven counter. Hey, so how's your day going today? Get those awkward moments out of the way now, because when you get in front of people who do the hiring and all that, you're going to be much more, fluent. So.
I'll say too, sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Yes.
Big one. This one, it's kind of a weird summation of everyone's points, and it just comes down to this. Allow yourself to fail. Make that something it's going to be a huge part of growing up. It was a huge part of my life growing up, and that's the only reason why I'm here the way I am today. The other piece of, what's the 3-part advice? The second one is keep actively learning. I strongly believe that if you choose to stop learning as a person, you stop living. Always keep learning. You're never going to stop learning something new, and you're not going to keep moving forward in life if you choose to say, I know everything. Because you don't, and you never will. And the final piece would be, have fun with it. It's life. Life is not so scary and big and out there. We have so many options. I did not even consider Brookdale an option when I first basically failed out of med school and like accounting and law stuff. But Brookdale was a place I had the most fun in my life. I found out who I was as a person. I found out what I actually love. I met my wife here. Brookdale is a huge integral part of me, and you guys are here. Embrace it, live it, and make the most of it. You never know what's going to come out of it. I didn't know I was going to have a wife and kid from specifically Brookdale, but hey, I did.
It should be part of a tagline in the recruiting.
Yeah. I'm just trying to
have a kid.
Live
Get
life.
married and have a kid. Come to Brookdale.
Not that I'm encouraging or supporting any part, but enjoy your life. Make those mistakes. Enjoy every moment of it. You're going to have a long, beautiful, busy life. Take the small moments. That's all I have to say.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause to our excellent panelists. I know you took time out of your busy schedule to impart all of these grains of wisdom. So now it's on you guys, right? So what are you going to do with all of this extremely important information, right? So I hope you take the remainder of the time to get out of your comfort zone and engage and talk to people and get your LinkedIn out, right? Every panelist is on LinkedIn, so it's your opportunity to stay connected wherever your path may lead. And I hope today shed a little bit of some light onto your next steps. And MAC 105 Career Leadership and Transfer Pathways is here to help you define that into an action plan for you as well. But thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.